Hi.
You're listening to Cultivate Curiosity,
A podcast that inspires the next generation to stay curious. Cultivate Curiosity is brought to you by the Emerald Coast Science Center,
a nonprofit interactive science museum and STEAM educational facility in Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
This podcast is perfect for anyone curious about the world we live in because you never know what we'll talk about next.
Hello, my name's Harley, and I'm an educator and the Community Affairs Coordinator at the Emerald Coast Science Center. And with us today, we have a lovely, lovely turtle person, one of my great friends, Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I am the Destin-Fort Walton Beach Sea Turtle Patrol permit holder. I'm also the Natural Resources Manager with the Destin-Fort Walton Beach Tourism Development Department.
If you guys know Jessica, you probably have an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. It's turtles. We're going to talk all things turtles. And when we're recording this, it is actually World Turtle Day. But when it's going to come out, it will be May 28th. So hopefully you're listening to this on May 28th, which will be like next week. But yeah, it's World Turtle Day, so perfect time for us to talk all things turtles. So listen up. I guess first let's start off with our beaches, maybe sea turtle nesting season, what turtles we're likely to see up here.
Yeah, so for us specifically, we survey 2 beaches. We survey all of Destin and then the developed section of Okaloosa Island in Fort Walton Beach. So the season started May 1st. The nesting season in Northwest Florida is May 1st to October 31st. So we are just kicking it off 23 days ago. It's been very exciting. And yeah, so there are 7 different species of sea turtles, but we really only see 4 of those species here in Destin-Fort Walton Beach. So the main one that we have that nests on our beaches is the loggerhead sea turtle. We also see green sea turtles nesting on our beaches. Occasionally and pretty rarely we get Kemp's Ridleys, and then also leatherbacks are even more rare in the area, but all 4 of those species of sea turtles do inhabit the Gulf. So we see them regularly in our waters. Leatherbacks are a little bit more rare to see in the water, but the rest of them are all there. So, and there's nesting activity from all 4 species on our beaches, but loggerheads are definitely our most common. This year, though, is what we call a green year. And so basically, sea turtles do not nest every single year. Like the individual does not nest every single year. She'll usually take off like a year or 2 in between her nesting season. But when she does nest, she'll nest multiple times throughout that season. But our green sea turtles, and we don't totally know why this is, but we tend to see a lot of them nesting in the same year. And so this year is considered a green year. So hopefully that means we have a lot more green sea turtles nesting on our beaches this year.
So why do we need to know about when they nest and how long they nest for and all that? Why is that important?
Because sea turtles are what we call keystone species. So I don't know if you guys have covered that on this podcast at all.
I don't think so. No.
So basically a keystone species is something that is, vital to nature, to circle of life, food web, whatever it may be. So they're very important. And without them, other animals and other species would suffer. And so like sea turtles, for instance, are very important because they eat seagrass. And so they keep a lot of our other populations under control, in check. And all of our sea turtles are protected. So they are all listed as threatened or endangered. So with them nesting on our beaches, we have to make sure that we're protecting their nests. As you all know, and I'm sure many of the people listening to this, Destin-Fort Walton Beach is a very busy area, especially during the summertime. That is our busy season, and that is also when sea turtles are actively nesting on our beaches. So for us to know when they're coming up onto the beach, it allows us to be able to protect them. So sea turtles, their eggs, their nests, the hatchlings, everything, it's all protected. Nobody, just the average Joe can't go out and hold a sea turtle or pick up a sea turtle egg or a hatchling or anything like that. Yes, oh my gosh, please, please, please. But so we go out every single morning and we look for sea turtle nests. We patrol on the beach. That's what the Destin-Fort Walton Beach Sea Turtle Patrol is for. Harley is part of that team.
That's me.
Yes. We're out every single morning looking for these sea turtle nests so we can mark them off, so we can make sure that they stay protected. Our beaches are busy. The evidence that we find of a sea turtle nesting is literally the track that they leave in the sand. Like, we're not out there looking for every nesting sea turtle. We're looking for that track the morning after they have nested. And so being able to protect that nest and, find it, like once the beach gets busy and all these people are running around, that nest is going to get wiped out, and we don't have the ability to protect that nest area. And then also too, after a nest hatches, we will go in and we'll evaluate the nest. And so what that means is we will pull all of the nest contents up out of the nest. So all of the eggs, all of the hatched eggs, we'll count them and we'll see how many of them hatched, how many of them didn't, how many there were total, and we will determine how successful that nest was. And so we can get a really, really good idea based on those nest assessments, how productive our beaches are and how many turtles are being produced from our beaches. So it gives us a really good idea just of the overall population of sea turtles and how they're doing, how frequently they're nesting, and then, how many could potentially be coming back in 20, 25 years when they finally become adults.
So it takes them about 20 years to be able to lay eggs as a female sea turtle-ish?
Ish, yeah. So each species is different. I just always use 20, 25 years as my example because that's typical of loggerheads, which is our most common nester. Kemp's Ridleys, their maturity age is a little bit lower. Greens are a little bit higher. So it does just depend on the species of sea turtle, but...
And what's their lifespan? Years. I'm just thinking Finding Nemo when they're swimming, and he's like, "How long does a sea turtle live?"
We don't know. So that's what's kind of interesting about it is we have an idea. The oldest sea turtle that's ever been recorded is around 90 years old. But unfortunately, the only way for us to officially age a sea turtle is once they have already passed.
And then you have to find them.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so there could be a 500-year-old sea turtle out there. We just don't know, living in the depths of the Gulf. I don't know. But, it's the only way for us to truly figure out how old they are is once they, are no longer alive. And so we don't know.
Yeah. That's cool. I did not know that. So can you tell us a little bit about their eggs, how they sort of lay their eggs, what they do when they come up on the beach in the nighttime or in the daytime, depending on the species of sea turtle?
Yeah. Most of our sea turtles are nighttime nesters. The Kemp's Ridley, though, is a daytime nester, and so they will actually come up onto the beach in the middle of the day to lay their eggs. But for the most part, the rest of our turtles are doing this at night. So what they do is they crawl up onto the beach. When they, like a spot, they find a good spot. They're going to kind of shimmy their body down into the sand a little bit and push some sand off to the side. And what they're doing is they're just making themselves deeper in the sand. Once they have a body pit is what it's called, they will use their back flippers and they'll actually dig a hole or an egg chamber. And it kind of looks like an upside down light bulb. So it'll be skinny at the top and then it'll open up down below. And once she's gotten all of the sand out of there, she's going to lay her eggs. Turtles on average lay about 100 eggs. It does depend on species again, but on average right around 100. And once she's done doing that, she is going to bury those eggs again with her back flippers, and she kind of puts some sand back there and pats it down, and then she takes her front flippers and she actually throws sand behind her. And what she's doing is she's trying to camouflage where those eggs are, because once she's done, camouflaging her eggs, she's going to go back out into the water and she never comes and checks on them ever again. So they are literally on their own from there on out. And so, she's trying to hide where exactly those eggs are to give her offspring the best chance of survival.
Still a good mother.
Yeah. I mean, as good as she can be, right? Yeah.
So whenever a mama sea turtle comes up and lays her eggs, they're in there for a certain amount of time-ish, depending on the species. But how is that egg developing? What's happening? What's going on there? How do we get our male and female turtles? How does that all work?
Yeah. So the eggs, stay underground for a few months. It does depend on the time of year that they're laid. The entire incubation process is temperature dependent. So during that time, because turtles are air breathers, that's why they lay their eggs on land. They are, underground. They're under the sand. During that time, little hatchling sea turtles are developing in those eggs, just like any other egg would develop. But what's cool about sea turtles, and I think a lot of reptiles too, is that if they become male or female, they are temperature dependent. So what that means is temperature actually plays a huge factor in if, that specific egg becomes a female turtle or a male turtle. And so warmer temperatures, warmer incubation temperatures are going to create more females. Cooler temperatures are going to create more males. And so the saying we like to say is hot chicks and cool dudes. It's a really easy way to remember it. But, so a nest that's laid earlier in the season may experience some cooler incubation temperatures. And so we may see more males in that nest. Whereas if a nest is laid in June or July, that's the hottest time of the year. We're going to see warmer sand temperatures, and those eggs may be more female. We've been doing a study with the U.S. Geological Survey out of the whole Panhandle area, Northwest Florida. Well, actually, probably more than that. I don't know. But we work with them, in Florida specifically. But we've actually been doing a sand temperature study for over the past couple of years where we're looking at sand temperatures in this whole region and at like your typical depths of where a sea turtle nest would be, and logging, the sand temperature throughout the entire nesting season. And what we're finding is based on, the few years that we've been doing it, is that our beaches are actually producing a lot of males, which for the overall turtle population is really good. South Florida, especially in those warmer climates, they are experiencing 100% female hatches. Wow. And so for us to still be producing males, that
is important.
It's very important. Yeah. And there's just a lot less data and information on male sea turtles in general, because at least females, like in the areas where they do tagging at night. So there are a lot of beaches where they will go and, if there's a turtle coming up onto the beach, they will, put a satellite tag on her so we can track her movements and see when she's coming back, how often she's coming back, where she goes in between, so on and so forth. But the male sea turtles never come up on land. It's a lot harder for us to be able to tag them. And so we just have a lot less information on them and like their populations and how many individuals are left. And so for us to be, creating and having mainly males hopefully coming from our beaches, it shows good, future or good possibilities for future populations. Yeah. Yes.
How do you tell the difference between a male and female sea turtle?
So we can only tell the difference once they, like physically looking at them once they become an adult. So it does make it hard. So, these, figuring out if they're male or female when they hatch is all based on the temperatures. But once they become an adult, males will have a very long tail. And so that is how we can tell the difference between a male and female. All of our adult turtles, once they reach a certain size in carapace length or their shell length, that's when we know that they have reached adulthood. And then we can tell, based on those measurements, if they have a tail, they are going to be male. And if the females do have a tail, but it's very short and it usually doesn't stick out from underneath their carapace, whereas the male turtles, their tail sticks very far out. Yep.
Do the male sea turtles get caught a lot on the fishing hooks, like when people are fishing off the pier, or is it a variety of?
It's a good mix. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know for certain when they're younger. Like because we don't know until they've reached adulthood. We definitely do see plenty of adult males and females hanging out around the fishing piers and everything. And, unfortunately, it's food. It's why we have a fishing pier in the first place, because it attracts a lot of fish.
Everybody knows it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an easy little, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe a midnight snack for our sea turtles, unfortunately. But, the pier does a really good job. They have a really good response protocol put in place for when a sea turtle does get hooked. So they have signage all over the place on the pier. The Golfarium actually has a stranding team that is present on the pier throughout the day. So that way, if, a sea turtle does get hooked, they're right there. They can respond to it. They can go and help get that sea turtle up to safety. And then they literally take it right to the Golfarium from there. And they're able to assess the turtle, figure out what's wrong, help it, and then eventually release it.
Cool. So if an everyday Joe is walking along the beach and they see a sea turtle, or they happen to see baby sea turtles hatching from a nest, what should they do?
Well, lots of things. But yeah, so I mean, it's not common, but it does happen where you're out on the beach at night, walking around, and you happen to come across a sea turtle coming up onto the beach to lay her eggs. So, the main thing to do, the very first thing, is to be quiet and give her some space. Sea turtles are very skittish. And so if they come up onto the beach and they're getting spooked by a person in their face with a bright white flashlight, they're going to get freaked out and they're going to turn around and go back out in the water. Sea turtles don't always necessarily lay their eggs every single time they come up onto the beach. This is what we call a false crawl, when they come up onto the beach and don't lay eggs. But if she tries multiple times and she never feels comfortable or safe, she is going to turn around and go back out in the water, and she's got to get rid of those eggs at some point. And she's going to end up laying them in the water, and then they're immediately done right then and there. And that was a total waste of at least 100 eggs, So it's really important to be quiet, keep your distance, just observe from afar, shut off all of your lights. If you have any flashlight or anything on, make sure you turn that light off. Sea turtles are super sensitive to light. The females, when they're coming coming up onto the beach to nest, if there are a bunch of bright white lights, they're going to feel unsafe and go back out into the water. The hatchlings are actually attracted to the light. So when a nest hatches, the little hatchlings crawl up out of the sand, and it is their first instinct to follow that moonlight. That moonlight is what's supposed to help guide them out into the water. So if there are a bunch of bright white lights on land, they are going, they don't know any better.
Look at all the moons.
Yes, exactly. They're like, wow, so many moons over there. Let's go to them. It must be good that there's more than one, right? Yeah. And so they don't know any better. They're day old. And so they're going to go the wrong way. And once they disorient, that's what we call it, when they don't make their way to the water, the chances of them actually getting out to the water are so low. So it's really important to, just keep the beach as dark as possible. If you do come across, a nesting sea turtle, just keep your distance, enjoy from afar, shut all of your lights off, be quiet, and then give us a call. So we do have our Destin-Fort Walton Beach Sea Turtle Patrol hotline number that anyone can call any time of the day. It is literally a cell phone that stays on my body at all times. So I almost always answer it. 2 a.m, I will answer for a sea turtle nesting on the beach all day, every day. But that number is 850-461-2885. And so you guys, just give us a call and we'll kind of instruct you from there. And obviously we will come out and hope we make it in time to see her as well and make sure we can keep the scene controlled.
Sea turtle information only for this number. Don't just call Jessica to chit chat.
Yes, please. Please. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, if you really want to call about turtles, I'll talk about turtles all day long. But hopefully you get enough from this podcast. You don't need to call me.
So Jessica is the lead of our Sea Turtle Patrol team, and there's quite a few of us as well on there. So do you want to add anything about our Sea Turtle Patrol team or?
Yeah. So we are a team of 24. I think there's 24 of us. Wow. Yeah, it's awesome. And so we are mainly volunteers. This is, what I do for work. So of course, this is part of my job, and a couple of my coworkers are on the team. But for the most part, it is all volunteers dedicating their time in their early mornings. Harley's like, yes, it's early.
Once a week is okay.
Yeah, 7 days a week is
brutal.
Oh man, I'm in bed by like 8 o'clock every night. But they are dedicating their time, and it's all passionate people who love our turtles, love our beaches, love our environment, and want to get out there and help and protect our turtles. So we're out every single morning, 7 days a week, different people every morning, but out there surveying the beaches, looking for sea turtle nests, marking them off, educating the public. I mean, it's just a great opportunity for our team to be out there and tell people what we're doing out there. You'd see a vehicle driving down the beach and you're like, ugh, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be out here.
Am I in trouble?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I always feel that way. A lot of times when we're driving down, people have this sort of look like, oh no. And I'm like, we're just looking for turtle nests. Hello.
Just hi. I had the friendliest people on my survey this morning.
Oh, lovely.
It was great. Yes. I mean, just wave after wave after wave. I was like, oh my God.
Whoever you were on Friday, May 23rd.
In Destin.
Thank you for being so nice.
But yeah, I mean, the team is awesome. We obviously do our surveys. They're all involved in all the evaluations, and then just outreach and education in general. I mean, there's 24 of us out there promoting, educating, creating awareness of sea turtles. And I think that in our areas, especially our nesting activity is a lot lower than the rest of the state. So, the East Coast, everyone there knows about nesting sea turtles. I mean, you walk out on the beach at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, you're going to see a turtle nesting on the beach. They're everywhere. But here, it's a lot more rare. And so we get so many people during our nesting season that are from out of town. And so they just have no idea. They're unaware of sea turtle nesting season in general. And so it's just really great to have such a passionate team of people who get out there every day and want to, share this information and educate people and teach them. I mean, it is so funny. There's a lot of us on the team, and I'll get comments from just people on the beach that I know, because I know a lot of the regulars on the beach all the time, and they'll be like, oh, your team is just so happy to be out there. They're always just waving at everyone, and they're just smiling the whole way. And we actually had a false crawl the other morning, and Lynn and Sue were on survey in Destin. And I asked, how long did it take you before you saw the crawl? And Sue was like, oh, Lynn and I both saw it at the exact same time. And we just started screaming. We grabbed each other and started screaming. And, that excitement and passion shows in everything that we do.
That's cute. I could see them both doing that.
Oh my, they were the perfect people to find the first bit of activity of the season. I can only imagine.
The only time we may look sad is if we're not seeing any nest.
Yes, which is right now.
We're still going to
otherwise,
wave. Still come talk to us. Feel free to ask questions. Maybe grab a sticker or something fun. Or a flashlight, which can lead us into our next little bit to finish off our podcast. And what are some ways that people in the community or just people walking the beach can help protect these sea turtles?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, like, this is our busy season, so there are a lot of people on the beach. The Gulf is unpredictable. You never know if it's going to be nice and flat and you can go swimming, or if it's going to be a double red flag and you can't go out swimming. So on those days especially, people are still spending time on the beach, but they are on the beach and not in the water. And they tend to find things to keep them preoccupied, which is usually like building sandcastles and digging giant holes. And that is totally fine. Like, we want everyone to have a good time when they're out on the beach, but at the end of the day, it is so important to knock your sandcastles down. That sandcastle acts as an obstacle for our nesting sea turtles. If a sea turtle comes up and runs into a giant sandcastle, she's going to get freaked out. She's going to turn around and go back out in the water. A hole, obviously, I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but a turtle can easily fall into a giant hole and they can't get out. A lot of the time, sea turtles don't have the ability to back up. So if she's, crawling, she's flat on the ground. She is not walking on two legs like we are. And so she can't totally see what's in front of her. If she falls into a hole or starts to fall into a hole, she's got to keep going forward. If she can't get herself turned around, she can't back up. And so we don't want to see that happening, obviously. It is not something we want to come across at, 6 o'clock in the morning when we're out on the beach. And also even a footprint can act as an obstacle for a hatchling. There was one morning last year where a nest had hatched and it had disoriented pretty bad. So we were out there recovering all these turtles and someone had put a drink in the ground, in the sand. And I don't know, the hole was maybe like 3 inches deep and there was a hatchling inside the hole. And so thankfully we found it. But, in like a big turtle, like an adult turtle, we're going to see her track going into a hole. We'll be able to find her pretty easily. We still don't want that to happen, but we'll be able to find her. But a hatchling, when the whole beach is covered in hatchling tracks, we can't follow every single track. It's just impossible. And so it's just really important to leave the beach as flat as you possibly can, and that includes removing all of your belongings at the end of the day. So chairs, umbrellas, tents, trash, especially. That trash is going to end up in the ocean. Towels, yes, towels. Oh my goodness. The towels that get left out there. And some of them are nice towels, I must say. Like, people, come on. But yeah, just anything that you bring with you, take it back with you. The chairs, umbrellas, tents, all that acts as obstacles. We have seen it before where turtles will end up, crawling up onto the beach and getting stuck in a chair. And that, impedes their ability to move. And so we want to leave the beach as clean and open and flat as we possibly can. And then now to touch on these flashlights that we mentioned, leave the beach dark. So sea turtles are super affected by light. I kind of went into it, so I won't go too crazy into it, but a bright beach is going to deter a female from nesting on our beach. A bright white light is also going to attract those hatchlings and take them the wrong way, and which is not towards the water. And so the best thing to do is just turn off all of your lights. If you are staying on the water, even near the water, shut your lights off. That sky glow still has a good, impact on our sea turtles. And then if you're out on the beach at night, moonlight is usually bright enough, but sometimes the moon is not out. And so if you do have to use, try to not use a white light on the beach. Like, we definitely don't want you using a white light on the beach. But if you do have to use a light, we ask that it is a red light. So sea turtles see a little bit differently the way we do. They can see the red light, but it doesn't affect them as much as that white light. So light's made up of a bunch of different wavelengths. But so that long wavelength light is less harmful to our sea turtles, and they're just not, as affected by it. So that red light is going to make the beach appear more dark to our nesting and hatching sea turtles. So they're not going to be as drawn to that. And I know people are like, what? Red light, what? Where do I get one of those? Well, don't worry. I have all the answers for that. So we do give out free sea turtle friendly flashlights all over the place in Destin-Fort Walton Beach. At all of the welcome and adventure centers, we give them away for free. You can come in, grab as many as you need. If you see our patrol team on the beach, Harley is out on Okaloosa Island on Wednesdays.
We have some.
Yep. You can flag us down and come get as many flashlights as you need. And then, tell your friends and your family and let them know when they see you out there and they see you using this super cool red light. You let them know where you got it and you let them know why you're using it.
Love it. So keep the beaches flat, keep them dark, pick up all your trash, people. It's not that hard. We're doing it for the sea turtles, right?
Yes.
So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Please share this with your friends, family, if they plan on visiting here, or if you live here or they live here, share it with everybody. Thank you, Jessica, so much for joining us. I hope we had a good time.
Yes, of course. Thank you guys so much for having me. Can I do a little plug?
Yeah, do a plug.
So we have a Facebook page that I highly recommend following if you're not already following it. There's lots of cute turtle pictures on there, and we post stuff all the time about just updates throughout the season, anytime we get new activity, so on and so forth. It's very educational, very fun. But so it's the Destin-Fort Walton Beach Sea Turtle Patrol.
Check it out.
Yes, please.
Hopefully, and then everybody keep your fingers and toes and everything that you can crossed so that we get a sea turtle, please.
Yes, please do your turtle dance.
All right. Thank you. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Cultivate Curiosity.
If you have any questions, feel free to email us at socialmedia@ecscience.org.
Tune in for our next episode in 2 weeks.